What's up, my fellow Michiganians, Michiganders, whatever you happen to call yourselves? Welcome to Wolverine State Sports Talk. And last night, big news for the Detroit Pistons. So the Pistons decided to trade with the New York Knicks, and you can see the details of the trade right here. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a trade because the Pistons actually didn't give up anything. The only thing they gave up was some cap space, and the Knicks get the cap space that they need to sign Jalen Brunson, which it pretty much looks like a done deal that he's going to be going to New York. So, big kudos to Troy Weaver finding a desperate team and really extracting a lot out of them. You know, getting Jalen Duren, getting tons of second-round picks, and giving up pretty much absolutely nothing to take on some contracts from the New York Knicks. So, for the Pistons, this was a good use of the cap space. Here's the first thing I'm going to say about this trade. And this is the most important part of the video, and I honestly could end the video right here, but I do want to go into hypotheticals. This is the most important point. Free agency starts tomorrow. And given what Trickster Troy likes to do, usually one deal leads to another. This is not over. And the Pistons could do something with these two players and some of the assets that they have. Make a splash in free agency. We have absolutely no idea what's coming next, so stay tuned. That's the most important thing. End of video right there. But let me tell you what the most likely reason the Pistons did this is. What's most likely to happen? It looks like we're not going to be going after DeAndre Ayton or Miles Bridges. And I like both of those players, but I can't really sit here and say that I'm upset with Troy Weaver. I said in the last video, if you don't feel like you're sold on this free agent class, then don't get yourself into a long-term deal with someone that you're not confident is a max contract player, you know, a future cornerstone. I'm a big Miles Bridges fan. I love the way he plays, and I think he did want to be here. And Ayton also said he wanted to be here. But the truth is that if we sign DeAndre Ayton, then you're taking away minutes from Jalen Duren. And I think if we didn't get Jalen Duren in the draft, then we likely would have gone after DeAndre Ayton. So, and as much as I like Miles Bridges, I don't think the Hornets are going to budge on him, and I don't think his contract was very favorable for the Pistons. So, personally, I'm okay with this. You know, the worst thing you can do as a franchise is splurge in free agency when you don't believe in the free agency class. And I don't think Troy Weaver believes in this class. And even if he did, the reality is you've done so well in the draft, which is something we haven't heard as Pistons fans for a long time. You've done so well in the draft, you can't really take away minutes from these guys. I mean, you can sign some role players, and that's essentially what Alec Burks is. He's a role player that can help shoot threes. Good addition for this year's team. Nerlens Noel is a great defender. Will be kind of a mentor for Jalen Duren. You know, he's 10 years older than Duren, and really can teach him how to play some good defense because Noel is very good at that. So, and the other good thing about these two guys as well is they're only one-year deals. So what this tells me is the Pistons have decided to punt, and it looks like they're going to be going after free agency next year. So that's my big thing. I don't think that they're going to make a big splash. They're just going to sign a bunch of little deals. That being said, though, you see the note on the bottom here. The Pistons still have $35 million in cap space, and it's an NBA rule that you have to spend at least $90 million of your cap space. So the first priority the Pistons will do with this is re-sign Marvin Bagley. I think that's one of the most important things. I like the way he played late last season with Cade Cunningham. I know he hasn't been great through his first 4 years, but I think Cade really unlocked a part of his game that could really help him going forward. So I'd love to re-sign Marvin Bagley. And then I was thinking about Bobby Portis, but I think he would be a little bit too expensive. Not really worth it. Otto Porter Jr. and Bryn Forbes could be worth it to me. I think this team needs more depth at the power forward position. But even then, I mean, it's just a tricky situation because if you're going to re-sign Bagley, you know, I guess you don't really want to take away minutes from him. You know, he's still young. He's still 22 years old. You know, Saddiq Bey, as much as I'd like to get another 3 at his position, we need to find out how good he really is because he has shown a lot of potential. But the fact is, this season's going to be about evaluation and development. And I know it's been frustrating because the Pistons haven't been good for a while, but believe me, it is better to take this approach then, splurge in free agency just so you can get a play-in game. This team is not ready yet to splurge, as much as I hate to say it. And when you draft Jaden Ivey, you're pretty at number 5 overall. And when you make that trade for Jalen Duren, you're under the expectation that these guys are going to get significant minutes, that these guys are going to be starters and regular players. So the reality is these two guys need to get tons of minutes this year. And obviously same with Cade Cunningham. Personally, the team this year is not going to be great. But the future is still very bright for this organization. And I'm still very excited to see what this team can do. They're going to be super young. And the good thing is, too, if they don't want to re-sign these two guys for long-term deals, they can trade them and get assets for them. So the Pistons are doing this right. They're taking the slow approach, not trying to rush into the play-in game. To me, that's what the New York Knicks are doing, and that's why it's going to be a failure. I think when Troy Weaver finds a free agent class that he likes, and when he doesn't have guys he has to evaluate, meaning, let's say, for example, Marvin Bagley isn't quite who he thought he was, ends up being a complete bust, then you splurge in free agency and you go after that power forward. But right now it's not really clear how good the guys in the team are because of how young they are. So I'm totally fine with punting, seeing what happens. I think pretty much the only surefire player on this team is Cade Cunningham. Otherwise, we need to see how good these other guys are and see how much they can develop. And there's definitely some hope that they can, but it's never a guarantee. And when you sign a bunch of expensive free agents, you stunt their development, you stunt your ability to evaluate them, and you end up building a team that doesn't have a lot of chemistry. So I don't really see Troy Weaver doing a whole lot other than re-signing Bagley, maybe making one or two minor signings like Forbes or Porter, to help out with either three-point shooting or some power forward play. But punting is definitely the right option here. And it's going to be a little bit of a project, but if some guys step up, if Ivey and Duren and Bay are all who we think they are, then I think that's great news. Then you get some pieces to help them out. But for right now, minutes are paramount for these guys. And you got to do whatever you can to get them as many minutes as possible. Good news is, too, the bench is pretty deep for the Pistons as well. I love having Noel and having Hayes and Stewart. I think those three are going to be great defensively, especially playing together. So, bench looks good for the Pistons next year, and I'm excited to see what happens. Probably going to be another lottery season. Might not be a bad thing. Maybe you add that power forward that you need. So, the Pistons are committed to doing this through the draft. And if they are committed through free agency, it's not going to be this season. So, personally, all for it. All right, thank you all very much. You have a good night.